This is section 5 of the contract for sale and purchase. This is the expenses section of the contract. This video is going to focus on the buyer expenses. Next video, we'll jump into the seller expenses. Understand that everything in section 5, for the most part, is negotiable. But for the purposes of this training, we're going to talk about just kind of the standard contract boxes that we check on the majority of the contracts that we write with the standard fees, so on and so forth. So you need to know what all of these things are in the contract. You should have learned about most of this stuff in your initial licensing course, but the buyer is going to pay for the appraisal, so we'll check that box. Buyer has their own attorney fees, pretty self-explanatory. If there's an HOA on the property that they're buying, and in this case, 1080 Landings Loop, there is an HOA. All right, so we're going to go ahead and check HOA enhancement fee. That is a buyer expense. If the buyer is going to pay for their own home warranty, this is where you would put it, line 48, but they're not in this particular case. Over here, you have mortgagee's title insurance. Yes, that's going to be required for the loan. And then the owner's policy, again, we're going to check that box. And then the buyer's also going to get a survey. That is a buyer expense. Some states that is a typical seller expense. And then finally, other fees. This is where you'll put your JMRE transaction fee right there. So those are the standard buyer expenses. Not many boxes to check here for your buyer. If you read lines 38 through 43, it'll give you some more specific examples of things that the buyers are going to be paying for that are pretty much non-negotiable. Loan origination fees, so on and so forth. If you want the seller to pay for some of those things, you can do that, but the buyer's going to pay for those costs in advance and get reimbursed by the seller at closing through section 5, lines 53 through 59.